Today I'm going to show you how to make a pair of suitcases in 1/12 scale. Got a small and large, and the cases are lined, and these look really nice with like little displays in them, or obviously just to use closed in a scene. And for this project I again used a softwood which is called a beche. That's O-B-E-C-H-E if you want to search the internet for somewhere who sells this type of wood. But you could also use basswood, lime wood, gelatong, anything that's nice and soft with a nice sort of closed grain. And then craft knife, got a Swan Morton craft knife here with a 10A blade. Always put a new blade in at the start of a project, and if it begins to catch or drag along the wood, it means it's becoming blunt. Nice sharp pencil for accurate marking. Steel rule, obviously used for measuring and for cutting the wood alongside the craft knife. Paint, just these little emulsion pots are perfect. And obviously a paintbrush. I use cocktail sticks to apply the glue, along with just a piece of card from a cereal packet. The glue I use is called Gorilla Wood glue. Bonds really quickly, it's really strong. A medium grade sandpaper, this is a 120, obviously for sanding the edges of the wood, and then a sort of finer grade, and I cut them up into these small pieces, and that's for sort of sanding after paint. And then for the straps on the case, I've used a fine glove leather, but if you didn't want to use leather, you can use any sort of fabric or a thick ribbon. And the straps are 3mm or 1/8 of an inch wide, so a ribbon of that thickness. And then finally, to line the case, I've used a doll's house wallpaper that I had left over, but any sort of paper, scrapbooking papers, or you could even just print something onto your normal printer paper, normal 80 GSM paper. Okay, so I've cut all the pieces and I've been through and sanded the edge of each piece. And when you're doing that, just go in one direction along the sandpaper, otherwise you'll round the edges. And the base and the lid for the small and the large case are all constructed in the same way. So I'll just start with the large case. I'll just push those to one side. And I've dispensed some glue here onto a piece of cereal packet card, and I'm going to use a cocktail stick to apply it. So take the base piece of the suitcase base and just apply glue along each long edge. And lay that down on the worktop, and we're just going to attach the front and back to the outer edges of that base piece. Just press that into place. And the second one, and just make sure that the edges are in line with the edge of the base piece. And then just very carefully just press that to one side, and I'll do the lid as well. So again, exactly the same thing, applying the glue along the long edges. I'm going to just attach the front and back piece again. I've just got a spare cocktail stick here just to remove the glue from along the joins. That glue should have dried off a bit now on there, so I'm going to attach the sides. So again, just apply glue to those outer edges. Turn that round. Lay that down again and then attach the side pieces, and you just bring those front and back pieces just forward slightly, or just move them so that they're completely in line with the edge of the side piece, and then we'll get a nice square base. That piece as well, and just press those together. That to one side, and again the same with the lid. And then attach the side pieces. Again, making sure that everything remains square. Just press that gently together. Okay, so there's our base and lid, and then leave those to one side to completely dry off. And I've made up the smaller case here, and then once the glue has dried, you can then just sand again all edges, so the top and bottom. And I've already done these, so I won't do it again because it's quite a horrible sound. Like so, and then just in one direction along all the sides, and that just smooths off any sort of overhanging edges, and then you've got two pieces that just fit perfectly together like so. And then do that with the base once the glue is completely dried, and then they're ready to paint. So we're going to paint the outside edges. We'll be lining the inside, so no need to do the inside, but do these edges because they will still be visible. And if you want to paint as well inside rather than line, now's the time to do that as well. But I think it looks nice with the lining, and then you can have it open and do a nice display in there. Okay, so once the suitcases have been painted, we're going to line them with paper, and I'm using some Doll's House wallpaper that I've got spare, but you could use any sort of scrapbooking paper or patterned paper that you have. And again, these for each case, for the base and the lid, the lining is done in the same way, so I'm just going to show you on the base of the large suitcase. But I've put the sizes up for you, and they're coming up now. So once you've cut all of the pieces, you want to turn it over, and then on the back we're just going to make, we're going to draw lines. And for the base, it's basically the height of this inside edge of each of the front and back and the side pieces. So it's the height of that, which I think was 14.5mm, and then it'll be less the thickness of the base, so less 1.5mm, so it'll be 13mm. And you might just want to check that, because when you sanded you may have taken some of that depth away. And I've measured mine, and mine's actually gone down to 12.5mm, so that's what I'm going to be marking on here. So do a mark at each end, 12.5, or the height of the internal edges. And just draw those across. And then that same measurement along the shorter edge. And draw those across as well. And then we're just going to snip out each of those corner sections. And then fold up each edge along the edge of the ruler, and just sort of press that in with your fingernail there. And then just fold those down and crease that in. And if any of your edges sort of come past your fold line there, you can just snip those off. Side as well. So just making sure that every edge is straight. And then turn the piece the right way round and just fold in all of those edges. And then you can just try the piece inside the case to make sure that you've got a really good fit. And I can see there that the paper's just slightly coming over that edge where I've obviously sanded slightly lower on one side, so you can just trim those off. And a good idea is actually to do it first on a template, so that you don't waste your paper, and then you can copy that. I'll just trim those edges. Just these two edges. Yep, now I've got a nice fit, so we're going to glue that into place. So apply glue around the edges of the inside. a little bit in the centre there. And I've got a glue scraper here, and I'll just spread that around. If you haven't got a glue scraper, you can use a piece of folded card or a piece of spare wood. Just something you can get in there right into the corners with. Okay, and then fold all your edges in again. And you just want to start by sticking down the bottom. And then you can fold out the edges. Just press them against the sides. And I've got a clean scraper here, but again, anything just with a flat edge that you can get in there, and just press the paper into those edges to make a nice crease. And then again, you can just flatten that against the sides. Any bits that you've still got overhanging, we can trim those off, but don't do it until the glue is completely dried, otherwise the paper will tear. So once all of the cases are lined, we're going to apply the straps, and I'll start with the larger case, and I'm using a fine glove leather for mine, but you could use fabric or, I don't know, a ribbon. And it's got to be about 3mm or 1/8 of an inch thick. Now to cut, if you're using the leather, to cut the leather, I do this with a craft knife, and I've just got here a piece of 3mm strip wood, which I'm just using as a guide for the cutting. So cut it on the wrong side. So just place your ruler across. You don't have to use this, you could just make a pencil mark at either edge of the fabric, and then you want your blade to be really nice and sharp, and apply pressure to the ruler where you're cutting, and that'll stop the leather from moving. So just keep moving your fingers along the ruler and pressing down. Reach the end, and there you've got a nice straight edged strip. Okay, so I've cut quite a few strips there. I'm going to start with the base, and by applying glue around the very edge. So on the front and along the bottom. And onto that back edge. Okay, so stick the right way round. Stick the leather down, starting at that front edge, and so that the top of it is level with the top of the front. Making sure that's right along that edge. And then hold that piece down and just pull it around the bottom. And don't go too tight with it, but do keep it firm. And then up that other edge. Okay, making sure that it's sort of flush with the side. If you've got any sort of glue that comes out this side, just use a clean cocktail stick just to wipe that away. And then you just want to leave that overhanging piece in place for now. And we're just going to do the same on the other edge. Try not to apply too much glue. And then this way you've got the overhanging piece becomes the back, so you want to attach again starting at the front edge. Okay, and then we're going to put our lid into place. And just hold it, making sure that all the edges are flush so that it's in the right place. And we're going to apply the glue again and carry that leather round. On the front edge there. And then pull that round, making sure that the lid stays in the right place. Again, keeping it nice and firm. Just press that down at the front, and then just glue there. Just get rid of that. And you can just leave that excess there for now. And we're going to do the same on the other side. And then just very carefully open the lid, and then we can just snip off the excess leather just below the line of the lid. My scissors are going blunt. And that side as well. Okay, so that's the first two straps in place. Now we're going to do the inner straps. Now, rather than making pencil marks on our case, I'm going to use some paper strips as spacers, and this is 9mm wide, or what's that, 3/8 of an inch, and just place them around the case close to that first strap. And then you can just use a small piece of tape to just hold that in place. Do the second one as well. Just take that down. And then just make sure that we're starting at the front edge, so where it opens. I've done that before where I glued them around this front edge so the case wouldn't open. So you could even sort of make a little pencil mark at the front just to make sure you do it properly. And we're going to start with our next strip and just apply glue along the edge of that paper. So try not to get it onto the paper, as you might stick it to the case. Just apply a line all the way round just to the edge of the paper. And then we're starting on the lid of the case again, so we're just level there with that opening. And then just feed that around. Again, going next to the paper and not over it. All the way around the back. Okay, not that front edge. I'll just put a bit more glue on there. I was pressing that in with my nail right up to the top of that front edge. And I'll just use the other side of the cocktail stick to remove that glue. And just leave that excess there for now, and then we're going to do the other side. Roll that back. Gone a bit wide there, but I can remove that. And then again, starting at that front, nearly did it. Just press that down and wind it round. And if you've got the glue marks on your paint, you can always just touch up the paint very carefully afterwards with a small brush, which I think I'm going to do. And then just give time for your glue to dry off, and then we'll remove those paper strips and trim the leather away. So once the glue's had time to dry off, you can just remove the paper strips. And where it's sort of stuck down there, just peel that off. And then just carefully open the case and trim off those extra pieces there, as close to the case as you can. It might help to use tweezers to remove any bits of paper that are stuck at the side of the leather. And then I've done the same with the smaller case, and here the spaces were just 7mm wide, or just over 1/4 inch. So they were 9mm on the larger case, that's 3/8 of an inch, and 7mm on the smaller one, just over 1/4 inch. So I'm now going to just go and tidy this up, get rid of the paper and pop a bit of paint over any glue residue on there, and then we'll fit the handle. So I've tidied up my case, got rid of any sort of paper that was stuck there next to the leather, and I've just touched up some of the glue residue with paint. Now we're just going to attach the handle. So I've cut a piece of leather again here, and this is just 2mm wide, so that's 3/32 of an inch. It's just a thin strip of leather, and this is 16mm long, so about 5/8 of an inch long. And then just use the craft knife or a pair of scissors just to make a point at each end. So just snip off each corner. And then just because it's so small, just use tweezers to handle the piece. That piece hasn't come off. And just apply a tiny dot of glue to each of those pointed ends. And then turn the suitcase over like that, and we're attaching it to the lid. So just stick down one end and then just make a slight curve and attach the other end, and then you can just press those ends down there with the tweezers like that. Remove any excess glue. And there's our completed case.